Oh boy, here we go again. And I can't even get him to work this year. Probably, geez. Yeah, Mary, yeah, we have another Christmas special. We've done a couple of them already this year, but hold on. I cannot figure out what, oh, there it is. I bet you that's the culprit. We got no lights this year. I'll figure it out some other time. Oh, okay, so anyways, wow. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone. This is my official Christmas special. I've actually had a couple of them already this year, kind of, or specials. Set season, you know, there's been, you know, the Luka Cee Broadcasting Network's specials, you see there. I can't see nothing. I really wasn't going to do another one. I figured, you know, the Mafia meeting, which if you haven't seen the last Mafia meeting, that is one Christmassy thing to watch. Go check that out. I'll have, at the end, you'll see a link to it. But something really cool happened. A couple of things that are really cool that have happened. Something kind of transpired over the past 6 months. You know, this year's been quite a year. It kind of fits into the Christmas theme, I guess. It'd be a Christmas theme, but it seems to be real appropriate to turn it into a Christmas theme. It's really neat. The way it all came together and kind of actually sort of something that was a gift given to me at the Christmas party. The Model Car Mafia Christmas meeting party / Christmas thing. You saw it. Remember? It's right here. I had such a good time. It was a great thing. You know, sometimes you meet somebody, your friends, you become friends with, right? And something just seems right about, you know, where all of a sudden you seem like you've known them a long time. As we get older, we have people that come and go in our lives. And this is a person that kind of, you know, came in and left, or is leaving, unfortunately. He's moving away, and we just, you know, started becoming friends. But I think we're going to probably always stay in contact. And it turned out he's basically comes from a group of people that I admire a lot. And when I first met him, I didn't really realize who he was. And probably the best way to really go for this whole story is, I tell you what I'm going to do. You got to watch a couple of clips from past videos I've done. One was the Scale Auto Retrospect, and then of course one of this particular Mafia meeting, but I'm going to show you the important parts. It's just cool things happen, and I think this is a cool thing that came into my life that I think I can also give to you guys as inspiration for everything, but it just also shows you how freaking cool and tight this hobby has gotten. I can't believe the people I've met. I've met so many people because of doing my YouTube, because of this hobby, traveling to shows that are people that I come to find out I've admired from afar for years, and now I've become friends with, and I just feel so fortunate. And this was going to be just another Scale Auto retrospective. I was going to do this book. Funny thing about this book, and we're gonna put this down, and we're gonna talk about things, and we're gonna look at a couple things in this book after we watch these two clips from the two videos, and you're gonna meet Mr. Tim Bungard.
And Tim Bungard from used to do what was it? It was Scale Firehouse, Model Firehouse in the old Scale Auto, and like with that Ford Thunderbird. So we have some vintage model car royalty here from the old Scale Auto, the Gary Schmidt days.
And of course, there was a very cool article. I always would grab anything that had anything to do with any article on NASCAR. And this was a really cool article on how to make decals, which from back in the day wasn't like making decals today. And this was the great little tricks for trick paint. And that's what this was about. And they go over doing, actually Fred Katie did make the decals. I'm incorrect. This article wasn't about making the decals, although they had that. Fred Katie had decals for this car. And this was one of those early cars. And this, who was it that did this? It would be Tim Bungard. And actually, I would love to do this car because it was one of them early faded NASCAR paint jobs. This Junie Donlevy Thunderbird. What a great article. And the thing about it, what he really showed in this was the Fred Katie decals, the 90s, were just yellow. The actual car, it had a fade, if you can see in this picture. That's what this covered, was not only doing the faded paint job of how to do that, but how to go ahead and fade your decals. And I actually kind of did something like that. This inspired me. I had to make some decals that had kind of a fade in them for a commission build right there. And yeah, that's where I got my information, doing all my little tricks and stuff. Boy, that was a cool model. I'll tell you what, I just always wonder if this guy, Tim Bogard, is still around. You watch YouTube, you're watching this, put something down in the, or you know him, put something down in the comments, man. I would love to see this model if it still exists today, because that thing was ahead of its time.
But this is one I want to talk about. You did this car, an article in Scale Auto.
Yeah.
That I happened to feature. Did a video on that Scale Auto, and that Scale Auto, I bought it because of the article years and years ago. And what you did was taking the old Fred Katie decals, but the article was about how to do those 90s correctly to get that fade in it.
Right.
And so this is kind of from long time ago in my model building, kind of meeting a celebrity right here.
Well,
So-
it was the first feature article that I wrote for Scale Auto Enthusiast.
Yeah.
And shortly thereafter, I started doing the model firehouse column for them, but I did a number of other feature articles as well. But the Fred Kitty decals, one of the things that really, I'm glad I got into the hobby and learned how to use his decals, because you had to layer them.
Yeah, I remember that. They were
all
registered.
They were silk screen, so you had to register them yourself.
Yep. So what that means is every color was separate. You had to lay them down. So you had to lay that yellow. You had to lay the black.
Right.
Oh yeah, I used his decals quite a bit.
So that taught me how to actually layer one decal on top of another.
And that is Mr. Tim, and I am happy to say that he has become a friend of mine. And it was just so funny. The story goes is that first clip that you saw, I didn't know who he was, and I might have even met him at that point and didn't put two and two together because, nothing in the noggin. Or it was just like a matter of weeks after I made that video, and I go on about, hey, this car. At the meeting, my good friend Dan Doan, who you always see in the Mafia meeting videos, he contacted Tim and said, hey, Luka is a fan of an article that you did, and it was that Thunderbird. Would you bring it and show it to him? And it was kind of funny. I saw it, and I go, oh, that's cool. That's like that Thunderbird that I talked about in that piece about Scale Auto. I was saying this to Dan, and Dan goes, no, that's it. Tim built that. And I go, oh yeah, it's just like the one in the article. No, the article was written by Tim, and that's the model. And I was like, oh. And that's why, I show it in the video and talk to Tim. Later that night, I grabbed that issue and had him sign it. I had to. He was like, I don't know. He's so modest, I guess, or something. He just doesn't think, I wrote for Scale Auto, big deal. But that's a big deal to me. That's what inspired me to do this. The guys that were all involved with the Gary Schmidt era of Scale Auto are my heroes. That's why having Doug White on that one time meant so much to me. I've reached out to many others I hope to have on. Anytime I get a chance to meet any of those guys from those days, it's a huge honor for me, because those are my model car hobby heroes. Those are the guys that all inspired me. The whole take of this is, look at how cool this hobby is, because there's people that come in, and so many of them stay, and they stay a long time, and they make impacts with so many different people, and you meet people, and sometimes it could be years later you meet the people that really heavily influenced you when you were younger. At the last meeting, Tim gave me a gift of a box of Scale Autos. He didn't want to truck them with me. He asked me earlier, are you into, I've been hunting for old Scale Autos, Gary Schmidt era, and that's what we talked about. He says, well, they're all Gary Schmidt era. Let me fill holes in my collection. And this is one that was a hole in my collection. It was actually the issue. that came out right before my very first issue, which I covered in my first retrospective. My very first issue of Scale Auto. This was the one that came out before this one. I went and bought, but not this one. This is actually one of his that he gave me. So now I got a new copy of it, but I have shown you the very copy I have that I bought. This magazine right here changed my life. It changed my life. This issue changed my life. This was the one before it, and I happened to go back to the store because they had back issues at the store. After I went through this and just devoured it in one night, I went back the next day to the hobby shop and I grabbed the one that was right before this one, but this one wasn't on the shelf. So I've never had this magazine. So I look through and I'm thinking I want to do a retrospective, and I go ahead today and I grab this one, and I'm going to show you, because basically Tim, he only kept issues that were really important to him, ones that he wrote articles that meant something to him and all that stuff. So I'm going to put this down right now and we're going to take a look at it, and I'm going to show you, I don't know if you call it serendipity or just, you know, from the model car gods, heaven open up, give us gifts. I got to show you something with this magazine. We're going to take a look at this, and there's something very cool, and we're going to cover this particular one.
You're watching the Luka Cee channel on YouTube.
So here we go, number 53, February 1988. I never had this issue, and this came in that wonderful gift that Tim gave me of all those wonderful Scale Autos that means so much. It's like really the only magazine. I've gotten rid of all my magazines. I've talked about that before, but Scale Autos, Gary Schmidt era, I want to have the entire collection. I always have wanted it. And it was so nice. He really filled a lot of holes. But this was a real special one. The strange thing, like I was saying, talking all over the place because I'm like that. This magazine, it's so strange that what I'm about to show you was the first one that I grabbed. I never even ever seen this issue before. I guess that's what gravitated me to it, and I wanted to do a retrospective. But I open it up and I'm thinking this is cool, and I just wanted to go over the whole thing before I showed you guys, because it was my first time ever seeing this magazine. This is what caught me. Let's take a look right here. In the editor's collection, it was called, Gary Schmidt would write this foreword to every issue, and this was really cool. And let me read this to you. It's the first thing I read in this magazine. Congratulations to our model firehouse columnist Tim Bungard and his wife Karen, who recently added a new member to their family. Amanda Leslie Bungard was born November 9th, 1988, mind you, of this year. And like mom and dad, she's doing just fine. And just to let you a little update on this little baby girl that was born, she's now in her mid-30s, and Tim told me this evening that she is now a teacher in York, PA, and a department head, and doing very well, and that is really awesome. How funny is that? You know, I just read this. I'm going through Scale Auto. I remember when this was, you know, this time period, what I was doing. I was about 22 years old, and well, there you go. You get a quick update when you find out about a baby being born. Well, she's doing just fine. That's really cool. But when I saw this, I remember Tim saying to me that he gave these to me because he went through all the magazines that he wanted to keep that had something that meant something to him. And so I immediately took a picture of the cover, and I texted him, and I said, do you have another copy of this? Because I'm pretty sure, and I took a picture of that, you would have liked to have kept this. And he goes, I didn't even remember that. It didn't even cross his mind on that one. And he said, oh, yes, I would. So I am going to give this back to Tim after we look at it. That's important. That's a big deal. And he also now, after Amanda being born, they also had a son, too. He's on his way to a very good career as a chef, and that's really awesome, man. And they're going to be closer to them, so it's okay to lose my new friend for something like that. We're going to continue to be friends, but we're going to take a quick. This is still a retrospective, and we're just going to look at this magazine really quick. It was a very good one. All this neat stuff that was going on in the hobby, items of interest. There's some really neat stuff that went on in this at this time, which is something I'm going to cover a little later. There was also something Gary Schmidt was talking about here, about all these great kits that were coming out that they're going to be covering in upcoming issues. What they say here, a 67 Nova Street machine, which we had ended up being 66, and also, MPC's 69 Cutlass, or 442, I should say. You all who've been in the hobby, those kits have been around forever and been reissued. So it's just, it's always been there. It's not that big of a deal. Those two kits were an extremely big deal back in 1988 and before, because they were never kitted before, and everybody wanted them, and we were excited about it. I remember everybody, man, you'd see that 66 Nova, tons of them at every show after it came out in 88, 89, 90. That kit was all over the place. Everybody was building it. I bet you they sold. That's probably why they've never really discontinued it. It would go away for a little bit and come right back. And it was just so many issues of it. I'm going to do a actual dedicated video about that kit, because it's really important. Look at the Rick Dauberton and that Corvette that was pretty much the same kit, just the Corvette body instead of the J2000. These were all the kits. This is when the IMSA GTO series cars they came out with. It was the Motorcraft, and I have that Motorcraft. I got a couple of those. I love those kits. Those are really neat Trans Am cars. That's when they first came out. Hey, Matthew over at Model Cars Videos. So that's when your Porsche 917K came out that you just got and you did a video on. And when we were talking, he had it sitting behind him on that video right there when we were having our little conversation a couple weeks ago. That's when it came out. What did we say? This was February of 88. AMS, are they still around? This was a cool club. They had something really good going. I went to one of their big shows, one of the best shows I ever been to until I went to Acme. This is kind of interesting. This was before we got the Buick Regal Grand National. This guy built this from a NASCAR kit and the Monte Carlo SS, combined them and made this with some parts box pieces. Oddly enough, in the next issue, I saw this, and this is Carl E. Rees. And then I saw in the following issue, I remember when I was all about this car. I wanted one of those. This was like a dream car of mine. I wanted one. So I took notice to this one that was in the first magazine I bought, which was the issue after. This guy right here, Danny Thomas from Columbus, Ohio, he built one the same way. So when I was looking at this today, I thought, oh, that must be that guy. But no, Carl of Grover City, Ohio. So, not too far away. Danny and Carl probably might have known each other. Who knows? Nah, two guys at the same time did that, and then bam, Monogram came out with their fantastic Buick Grand National kit. We're just going to move along, just taking a quick look, because I kind of killed a lot of the time just blah blahing about, all my mushy stuff. Got Collector's Showcase. If I'm going too fast, I'm sorry. A visit with Don Emmons. How cool is that? See, man, this is something that Kalmback just lost with this magazine. That's why I didn't buy it for years. Model Cars magazine, I like the last few issues I looked at, it seems like they're following this way of doing things, and it's good we got that magazine. I think it's important to still have a magazine, and it's cool when I look at these old issues and I look at the new Model Cars magazines. They're doing stuff like this, like just devoting a couple of pages to just this guy, a couple of pages, the how-tos. Don Emmons was, I just remember hearing about him. He was just a spectacular model car builder, did so many cool things. It's a cool article. I hope to sit down and read it. Here is a very cool article, how-tos. See that? There was a aftermarket company. I remember hearing about them. I always wanted to get their stuff and never did. The MPB Detail Products. They did a lot of really cool conversions that had resin and vacuum form, and they did, because there were no AAR CUDAs. Even that one that they came out with really wasn't that great. They gave you the parts to make it possible to build yourself an AAR CUDA back then. This was a thing that was starting to happen around this time at Scale Auto. Gary Schmidt felt that he needed to start recognizing what back then called the cottage industries, which I can relate to this because I'm one of those guys now. Wanted to highlight them and do articles on how to do their stuff, and they kept that even into the years of Kalmback. They continue to do that. I will say for them, how cool is that they did that? And Gary Schmidt really started that. And this is one of the first articles of working with one of these cottage industries, as they called them. And a few issues later, and I covered it in one of my retrospectives, they ended up dedicating a whole issue to the aftermarket guys. And it was just so cool. And this was just a great article on how to make your AAR CUDA. Their articles were done so well. They were just so well. It's going to be fun. Ghost models. I don't know what the heck you're talking about. Dean Milano, I remember reading his articles. This is an interesting little thing from what I gathered, skimming through it real fast, is all the models that were announced and then dropped before they produced them. And what do we see right here? AMT announced this back in mid-'80s, and we finally just got it. You round 2 haters, come on. Round 2 is doing an awesome job with grabbing, multiple companies and first of all saving them. We wouldn't even have them, and then they bring back a stalled project from decades ago, 3 decades ago, 4 decades ago, almost 40 years, 35 years. Mint Mercedes, and again, okay, light commercial. That's a cool one, and how to turn the which this kit is still out. It's that kit now. They keep repopping this Fall Guy truck, but this old Chevy pickup is a great basis to do, it was a short box, and this guy shows you how to do a long box. Jeez. Scale Auto, you guys, you were awesome. Light commercial, just cool stuff. Yeah, this was Terry Jesse it's Terry Jesse. Terry Jesse, I've been doing shout outs to you too, bud. Love to have you on the podcast if these guys are still around. These guys are all my heroes. That's why I just get all about this. Hey, Pat Redmond, what's going on here? The Canadian National Model Car Contest. You know any of these dudes? Looks like some good stuff up there north, eh? You guys over there drinking your paps. Look at that. Even if it was black and white. Contest coverage in the main magazine. J&J decals. I've talked about J&J decals. I'm going to be talking about J&J decals pretty soon in an upcoming thing. I'm hoping. I'm working on them. I'm not going to let you know yet. But I might have a surprise for you. Yeah. And there's Tim's article. Model Firehouse. I tell you, well, it's just cool. This was great. I didn't really get to really go through this magazine like I usually do with you guys, but you get the drift of how great Scale Auto was back in the days of the Gary Schmidt era. And, well, it seems like we got that today. I mean, the hobby's better than it ever has been. It's far from dying. We not only have great model car content creators like moi, and like Mark and Matthew and BG and, oh, geez, I guess we'll talk about Tim a little, and there's so many of them. So many good friends out there. We have a great time, and we love doing this for you. It's so nice to see all those guys that are putting out Model Cars Magazine and really giving it their all. Tim Brown over at Throttle Power does a great little it's not a retrospective. Every time he gets a new magazine, he does basically what I do here with less blah blah, but he shows you what their magazine is every month, and they've taken notice to that, and I think that's very cool. They always tip the hat to the YouTubers. They're always doing articles on them every month, and that's really cool. We're all doing the same thing. We're all content creators for you guys, taking care of you. So there's this great magazine, this great issue. I'm going to get this back to Tim. Thank you for letting me borrow this, Tim. That's cool. Meeting Tim was a gift. There's so many things. Meeting him just talking to him a few times, hanging out at a couple build sessions, a couple meetings, finding out who he was, having him sign that thing, which he was just, I don't think he ever had anybody, I don't know, but it meant a lot. I was serious. It wasn't a joke. I did it in front of the club, but it wasn't a joke. I mean, it meant something to me. You meet people like this because of the hobby, and they influence your life. They might be in it for a long time. I got friends, BG, meeting BG, it was a big thing for me, meeting him and what we've created with like the model car guys and just a good friendship. Chucky, all these new friends of mine, Mark Batson, Tim Brown, these guys are so important. Matthew, they're all so important to me. We talk on the phone. We're all good friends. We met up in Atlanta. I want to meet up with those guys again some other time. Everybody that's really important in my life, it seems to be model cars brings them to me. So model cars is something really, really important in my life. It is my life. I dedicate everything to it now, and it's worth it. It brings such good friendships. That's really what my channel is about. More so, I want to help you guys out with things that's awesome that happens. But it's the people that make the hobby great, not the model kits, not the model companies. Of course, they're a big part of it, and yes, they make the hobby great, but it's the people. I just have basically gathered through my life some of my closest friends. It's all been model cars. Just about everybody. It's been model cars that has brought me into their lives and them into my lives. And to get the chance to get to know Tim for a very short time, I know that we're going to be friends for a long time. And he definitely made some importance to me. And, don't cut yourself short with this hobby. Go out there and get to shows. Go out there and be cool online. Don't be a jerk and blast people. Go out there and see who you can meet, and maybe one day meet up with some of these guys you meet online and at a show, and just drop all the negative attitude garbage. We just don't need it. It's all about the positivity in this hobby. This hobby just brings great stuff. Great stuff. I just want to thank you all for watching. This was an important one for me, kind of developed into something different. Great holiday gift to you guys I wanted to give. This was a great holiday special. I figured this was perfect for the Christmas thing. Merry Christmas, or whatever you celebrate. Just, it's a great time of year. All of you. You're all my friends. I care so much about you all. I want to thank you all for your support. I want to say a little shout out to our buddy Mark Batson. If you don't know, go look on his channel. He took a heck of a spill. A lot of the YouTubers are talking about it. Mark Batson has become another one of those really close, important friends to me. I'm getting the word that he is pretty okay, but boy, he bashed his face in and busted his things and his digits and ribs and wrists and messed himself up, and he's, not going to be working at the bench much for a bit, and that kind of sucks, because you know how it is when you're a model builder. What do you want to do? You want to get onto models. Why? Because they're fun. That was a cool segue, huh? Mark, please get better. Give me a call anytime, buddy, and want to talk about models, and don't be bummed out, and just have fun with your family this Christmas. Everybody have fun with their families this Christmas. I'm having fun with mine. Felix is beating the heck out of me. We got the tree up and he lost his mind, and he stole my hat. I had to retrieve that. We'll get the lights figured out. Don't you worry. We're going to get those figured out. All right, guys, let's take off here. Have a great rest of your weekend. And I'll go back to saying, remember, well, you know what? We already said that. Let's say this. This is me, Luka Cee. Keep gluing those fingers together and keep cutting that string. And we will see you in the next video. Here's the producers.